Hey everyone, this is George Couros. Welcome back to another episode of the Innovator's Mindset podcast, a solo episode. And I've been trying to keep these short over the summer, and maybe I should keep them short all the time because let's admit we all have, shorter attention spans as we get older with TikTok and all of that stuff. But I wanted to share a story that's kind of been resonating with me that I thought about in my upcoming book, Forward Together, really talking about how do you bring people together during contentious times. And I haven't decided if I'm going to put the story in the book. I would love your feedback and thoughts. But it actually was inspired by something I wrote in my 50th birthday newsletter where I shared 50 lessons. And I was just kind of looking it over because I was thinking about what's a story I could share, something that'd be a nice short podcast, give a good lesson connected to life. And education. And I wrote this, first of all, before I get into what I wrote, there's one thing I wrote right before it, and I'll share the newsletter down below. Don't spend time in a place where you don't feel valued. Just I shared that, and it just really resonated with me. And I know that's something I really think about quite a bit, is it's really hard to be in places where people don't appreciate you, don't value the work that you do. And life is very short. So if you are in that place, if you can get out, because I know that's a very blunt thing to say, but life is so short. We're already blessed to be here in the first place. And I don't want to spend any more time in a place I don't feel valued. And it's just something I was thinking about too when I read that. I don't know if there's a story that is just something I shared in the newsletter, but this is the thing that I shared. And there's like a story behind it in my 50 lessons, but they're just quotes or ideas that came to me quickly. But I wanted to share the story behind this quote. Take ownership for messing up before someone points it out. They'll likely be less upset if you admit it first. And I know I have so many basketball stories, but there's so much in leadership that I learned from coaching, from sports, from reffing. And this specific idea came from when I was actually reffing college basketball. I was I was a rookie at the time in that space, reffing college basketball. And we have what's called 3-partner system. So basically there's 3 people refs instead of 2. And I was the least veteran on the space. And it was one of my very first games. And I remember actually, this is a new way to ref for me. It's something that you don't do at the high school level. And in the first quarter of the game, I did not make one call. And I was like, it seems like I'm so out of it. I am so out of it. I must look like I don't know what I'm doing. So the second quarter comes along. I still haven't made a call. And I actually saw something happen in the key in front of me, and I made a foul call. And to be honest, it was a terrible call. I should have never made it, but the whistle blew, had to sell it. And immediately, I'll never forget this, the coach starts yelling at me. And I just stop him immediately. I say, Coach, I'll talk to you in the first stoppage of play. He doesn't stop yelling. So he's yelling. The person who, gets fouled, shoots the free throws. Anyways, the coach actually calls a timeout. He is so mad about this call that he is going to stop the play so he can yell at me because he's so mad. And, college is I'm never a big fan of yelling at refs, but I also understand that there's coaches there, their livelihood depends on how well their team does. Like if their team doesn't do well, they could lose their job. So I can feel the pressure he's feeling. So anyways, he calls a timeout. I go over to my other 2 partners and I said, I'm going to go talk to the coach. And they're like, do not go over there. So they know I screwed up. And they don't think I know. They think I'm going to get combative and go into it. So I go over to the coach and he continues yelling. And I looked at him and said, Coach, you have nothing to yell about. It was a terrible call. My bad. I'll do better. And he just looked at me and he kind of smiled and he's like, all right. And it was just, what's he going to say? Like, yeah, you screwed up. Yeah, I already told you. Like, I agree with you. I agree with you. And it just really taught me something in that situation, that a lot of times when we mess up, we do something wrong, to take ownership of it early, you kind of actually take the power away from someone who wants to point it out. I heard this quote today in the gym that 50% of people don't care how you do, and 50% of people want to see you fail. And some of those people, and I don't think it's that number, I guarantee you, there's someone who wants to see you fail, me fail, whatever, and they're just waiting for you to screw up. And that opportunity that when you do screw up, because it will happen, we all do, I do several times every single day, that how do we take ownership over it? And we actually take the power away from somebody. I always talk about Kelly Wilkins, who had such an impact on me. And I know she really appreciated me because I would try different things. I would really push the boundaries of what we could do in education. But when that actually happens, you mess up. There's things that go wrong. And what I would often do is if I knew I screwed up or there's a potential that I made someone mad, when she was at the central office, when she was in the deputy superintendent role, I would just call her up and I'd say, hey, Kelly, this happened. I want to give you a heads up just in case you get a phone call, just in case, you get a parent complaint, there's some issue. And 9 times out of 10, no call. There's some though, right? But 9 times out of 10, there's no call. And she never well, you screwed up, blah, blah, blah. She always appreciated the heads up because that actually prepared her if she was going to get the call, that she understood what had happened, and actually that I took ownership and it just made it easier than she knew hey, yeah, actually George gave me a heads up about this. And, and if you want to talk, he already knows that he messed up and he's more than willing to have a conversation with us. So it was actually something that empowering. So it's just something that I think about quite a bit. There's times when especially when you're trying new stuff in education, when you're pushing the boundaries of what you're doing, things will go wrong. Things will, not be the way that you want to be. When you take ownership and say yeah, I messed up here. It does take that power away, but it also shows that you're willing to learn. This past week, I'm in a school district and the superintendent, she's incredible, but she said something that I didn't agree with. And I actually talked about it and said hey, here's a little pushback on this. And instead of pushing back, she listened to what I shared and she's like, you know what? You're right. And I'm going to change it. I'm going to change the language of what we've been saying. And it was just so empowering because she said it in front of her entire staff. Instead of pushing back, I gave a really good argument. She's like, yeah, that does align more with what we're trying to do. And when you have people in positions of authority that are, superintendents, principals, and I think a lot of times we want our teachers to do this, but do we do this as administrators? Do we do this, in leadership positions? When you say hey, I messed up, here's how I'm going to fix it. It actually encourages people to take risks, to try different things because they see that you're willing to own up to your mistakes, fix things as you go. And then, to make them right. And it does take that power away, but it shows that you're willing to learn. There's times I've screwed up personally, professionally. And, if I can kind of take ownership over it, it makes life way easier. So again, that quote, take ownership for messing up before someone points it out. They'll likely be less upset if you admit it first. Kind of, that to me is when you own it, then it's much easier for you to find a way to move forward. Anyways, I wanted to keep this short. Share some ideas, some insights with you. Thanks for spending your time with me. I know that you're super busy. I hope these little short podcasts over the summer as you're getting back into school and maybe not really focusing on school, they might give you some insights on education, on leadership, on teaching, but most importantly, I hope they give you some insights on just living life because I'm still growing as a human being, still trying to develop, and I got a long way to go. But I want to share some of my mistakes, some of my screw-ups with you so you can, my hindsight could be your foresight. Anyways, thanks for all you do. Have a wonderful day. Take care.